Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we have a real treat as we're going to visit the world's first nuclear-powered submarine, the USS Nautilus, which is docked in the Thames River at the Submarine Force Library and Museum in Groton, Connecticut. Before we board the sub, here's a look at a diagram of the boat. We're only going to be able to visit the forward sections as those are the only sections that are open to the public. And also just know there's no worries about radiation as the sub's reactor has been removed. As we board the Nautilus, your tour begins in the torpedo room. From here, you can also get a glimpse of some of the crew's quarters there. Be aware that you're going to have to be able to squeeze through several 4-foot tall hatches in order to be able to move through the sub on the tour.
This is cool.
Here's the officer's stateroom. There's an old edition of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, where the fictional Nautilus was commanded by the Captain Nemo in Jules Verne's classic novel. Here are the captain and first officer's quarters. Now, traveling out of the van, I didn't really find the submarine to be all that claustrophobic, to tell you the truth. We've actually been on another submarine in this channel, the Growler, back when we visited the Intrepid Museum in New York City a while ago. I'll include a card above if you want to check out that video and compare the two submarines. Now, the Growler was a diesel-powered sub that carried nuclear-armed missiles, but at 320 feet long, the Nautilus is roughly the same size as the Growler. It's quite a bit heavier, however. Now we're at the control section of the ship where you have some helmsmen there at the controls. You can see a mannequin of the captain there at the periscope. Most of the ship, as you can see, is protected behind glass on the tour. Here's some of the navigation tools, and then there's the sonar equipment. I felt like compared to the Growler, the Nautilus was quite a bit more roomy, and I imagine that's probably because they didn't have to squeeze in some Regulus cruise missiles. If you're enjoying the video so far, I'd really appreciate it so much if you'd please give me a like, and if you want to see more videos like this one, please consider subscribing. Thank you so much, and let's continue with the video. Let's venture over to the most popular area of the boat, the mess, where feeding sailors is really the only limiting factor of the sub.
Alright, now we're at the cruise mess. I'm going to go ahead and recommend this because it is so much less crowded than the Growler was in New York, let me tell you.
There's the emergency battery. Why would you need an emergency battery on a nuclear-powered submarine? Well, that would be in case you have to shut down the reactor. You need power to be able to restart it. Looking at a mannequin of the chef there in the kitchen. From the movies, we all know the chef is the most dangerous man on any ship.
A little tight in here, but we got it. That was actually kind of short and sweet.
The self-guided tour really isn't all that long. You can see everything in about 20 or 30 minutes, and it ends right back where you began in the torpedo room. One of the mind-blowing things I learned is that torpedoes operate a little differently from the movies. In the 60s, wire guidance systems were developed. So when torpedoes are fired, there's a wire that's miles and miles long that's attached to the torpedo that connects back to the sub, so the targeting computer in the sub can continue to send signals to redirect the torpedo until the line is cut when the target is finally locked in. And so that feature really makes a lot of the submarine tactics you see in movies a little ridiculous. Completing the tour of the Nautilus, we'll head into the museum. I'm sure almost everybody has a favorite submarine movie. Could be Red October, could be Das Boot, but whichever one it is, I would really love to hear in the comments below which is your favorite sub movie. Thanks so much for sharing. I will mention that the assigned naval officers in the museum told me that Down Periscope was the most realistic sub film. Within the museum, there's a terrific amount of information about the history of submarines and submariners. Ezra Lee there piloted the Turtle, which was sent on a mission by George Washington to sink some British ships in the Revolutionary War. While unsuccessful, that made the Turtle the first submersible deployed in combat. Another exhibit within the museum is dedicated to Admiral Hyman Rickover, who was known as the father of the nuclear navy. He both pushed for the use and oversaw the development of nuclear reactors in naval vessels. And he evidently was very good at his job, as there's never been a recorded nuclear accident within the U.S. Navy to this day. Because he was considered on active duty for the entire time he was working on nuclear reactors, Admiral Rickover is also considered as the longest serving active duty service member of the U.S. Armed Forces in U.S. history. Here are some artifacts from the Nautilus from its operational history. You can see the sub was in service until 1980. The Nautilus is one of only 2 nuclear-powered submarines that are open to the public in the entire world, and the only one in the United States. So visiting this sub is about as close as it gets to experiencing the hunt for Red October in real life without joining the Navy. The other sub that is open to the public is the Redoubtable, and that's located in France. It'd be a little bit more difficult to get the van over there. Now, the Redoubtable is a bigger ballistic missile sub, or what's known as a boomer. One of the significant accomplishments of the Nautilus was Operation Sunshine, where the Nautilus successfully navigated under the North Pole ice caps, and that was done as a response to the Soviet launch of Sputnik, which really kind of shook American confidence. Here are a few torpedoes. Surprisingly, torpedoes really haven't changed all that much from when the modern torpedo was invented in the 1860s. Here's a close look at a Polaris missile, which was our first submarine launched ballistic missile. And there's a model of a World War II submarine before they had the albacore hulls. At the museum, there's a list of every submarine the United States has ever commissioned. We've definitely built a lot of subs. And here's a list of all the subs that were lost. The majority were lost during World War II. To the bottom left, you'll see the Thresher and the Scorpion listed, and those are the only 2 American nuclear submarines to be lost at sea. The Thresher was lost during sea trials, and no one really knows what happened to the Scorpion. They both remain in the depths of the Atlantic Ocean. In the 1980s, the Navy funded an expedition by Robert Ballard to check up on the remains of both boats, and after after photographing and documenting the sites, the Navy then allowed Ballard to search for the Titanic. And as we know, he was successful in locating the Titanic. While there are no modern-day U.S. submarines available to the public, they do have mock-ups within the museum of some of the compartments, and they also have this cool model of a modern-day nuclear submarine. And there's even a periscope you can look through where you can see the van there. Moving back outside of the museum, here are the screws or the propellers from the Nautilus. Also preserved is the sail from the USS George Washington, and that was the United States' first ever nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. And then behind it, there's the Polaris missile that the submarine carried.
This place is pretty cool, man. Totally free. And if you're in the area, definitely check this out, man. Groton, Connecticut, the Nautilus Sub Museum. Pretty awesome. The guys inside were pretty cool and patient, answered all my questions. So definitely give this a recommend.
Touring the first nuclear-powered submarine in world history is just a really special opportunity that shouldn't be missed. As we head to the next adventure, I want to thank you so much for joining me for this video, and I will catch you in the next one. Thanks and take care. Bye.